There's an important tool that pops up in Chapter 6 that we're going to use over and over again, and I'm going to explain it briefly in this screencast. The tool is, we call it welfare analysis. It's not, welfare like, I'm poor and I'm receiving aid from the government. It's welfare in terms of well-being. And it's useful for purposes of trying to evaluate policy, to have a sense of what benefits accrue to people participating in the market. And our tools, I should say, are consumer and producer surplus. And let me define them one and then the other. First, consumer surplus. So I've got this graph is actually clipped from Chapter 5 that we didn't read and emphasize in class. The one thing we're going to take out of Chapter 5 that I want to tell you about is consumer surplus. Notice that we've got this market here where demand for milk is given by P equals 3 minus 1/4 Q, and then supply is just P equals Q over 2. And so those are just supply and demand functions. We know that market equilibrium, if this is the case, will occur at price of $2 a gallon and a quantity of 4. Notice there's 1,000 gallons on the x-axis. Okay, so far so good. We've done that. But when we ask how much well-being accrues to consumers as a result of being able to buy milk, we notice that the first consumer to buy a gallon of milk would have been interested in paying $3 for it, or maybe $2.99, and that person only had to pay $2 for it. So Bill Gates can go to the store and buy a gallon of milk for $2, even though he'd be able to pay $50 a gallon. Doesn't matter. He gets the market price. So this person that was willing to pay $3 but only paid $2, they gained $1 worth of surplus. Their valuation was $3. They paid $2. They've got $1 of surplus left over. And if we counted the excess of the person's willingness to pay for each gallon of the price actually paid and summed it up over all participants in the market, we'd have the area below the demand curve, above the price line, counted from 0 to 4,000 gallons of milk. And that's what we call consumer surplus. It's the aggregate surplus of value of the milk bought over the expenditure to buy that milk. Remember, the expenditure is the area of this rectangle. So we take that as an area. We notice it's got a height of $1 and a base of $1 per gallon. It's got a base of 4,000 gallons per day. So we remember that the area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. We end up getting 1/2 times $1 per gallon times 4,000 gallons. And we end up with $2,000 per day. Notice that the units are in dollars per day. The gallons of milk and the per day and the dollars per gallon. The gallons cancel out, and we're just talking dollars per day. What's nice about that is a lot of things in the economy are denominated in dollars per day. Our dollar is our unit of account and gives us a way, if we know two entities in dollar terms, we can compare them straight up. So welfare analysis is really useful as we look at how resources leave one area and go into another. We can consider how much value is lost in the area where resources are leaving, how much is gained in the areas where resources are going. Very useful tool. Now let's turn to producer surplus. Producer surplus is somewhat analogous, only now remember that the benefit for a producer is getting the market price, and their opportunity cost is the marginal cost, the cost they had to pay out to make each unit of milk. So that first producer, that first gallon of milk came almost free. It just about dripped out of the cow, and somebody just had a bucket handy and gathered it up at almost no cost. So that farmer would have just, it cost him nothing. He could have given it away and been no worse off than he was selling it. And instead he got $2. So 2 minus 0 is 2. And, the second person got $2 and could make it for a penny a gallon, whatever. Anyway, if we add up the excess of benefit over cost, price over marginal cost, for every gallon of milk sold, we have the area of this triangle. And we remember again, 1/2 times base times height. 1/2 times 2 is 1 times 4,000 is $4,000 a day in producer surplus. And these are important concepts. Again, the consumer's benefit is their willingness to pay, their marginal valuation. That comes from the demand curve. The amount they had to pay, the cost of getting each gallon of milk was $2. We look at the difference. That's the benefit for that particular gallon of milk purchased. We sum that up over all the gallons exchanged. We get consumer surplus. And producer surplus, the $2 price is the gain side. Marginal cost tells us the cost of producing each gallon. That difference is the producer surplus for that gallon. And if we sum that surplus up over all the gallons exchanged, we get producer surplus. I'll give you an example. I'll put up another screencast in a moment that will give you some practice. This is the application exercise we didn't quite get to in today's class.